Hi guys, welcome to today's class. Today we are going to be cutting our kimono dress. I'm going to show you how to cut your kimono dress. Now this is my fabric. To cut your kimono dress, the measurements you need your arm measurement, you need your bust measurement, you need your waist measurement, your hip measurement, then the length of your dress. You also need the round sleeve of your dress and the length of your sleeve, your arm measurement. Check the video on how to take measurement, accurate measurement, to see how to measure your armhole and take all these various measurements. So now the armhole measurements, you are going to be creating your lines. You create your chest line, you create your bust line, that's from your shoulder to your chest to your bust, then shoulder to your waist, shoulder to your hip, then to the length of your dress. So let's start. So the first one, I drew a baseline. This is where I'm going to be starting my measurement from, the baseline. So this is my shoulder, that's the shoulder. Shoulder to my chest. I want to use half of my armhole as my chest line. Half of my armhole. So half of my armhole is 19 inches divided by 2. That is 9.5. So 9.5. Then you connect the line. So the next one is my bust. My bust line is 11 inches. So this is 11 inch. So you connect the line. The next thing is your waist measurement. My waist is 16 inches. So from 11 to 16. And 16. So you connect the line. The next is my hip line. My hip line is 26 inches. So you have 26. So you connect the line. And the hem of my dress, I want my dress length to be 43 inches. So 43 inches plus 1 inch hem allowance, that's 44. 43 plus 1 inch hem allowance, that's 44 inches. 44. Then you connect it. So now after we have done that, the next thing we are going to be doing is our shoulder. Impute our measurement. My shoulder is 16 inches divided by 2, that's 8 inches. This is my 8 inches. And the 8 inch of my chest line, we connect it. So now my shoulder slope, using the standard, starting from 3 inches, go 1 inch deep. So now my shoulder slope, what I'm going to do is, starting from 3 inches, I'm going to rule it all the way down. You see, rule it all the way down. And the length of my sleeve, length of my kimono, you know, kimono, the sleeve is attached to the shoulder. So now there are 2 ways to measure it. You can measure all the way from this center bone to the length you want it to be. If you measure say 15, then whatever you are, the 15, you have to measure it all the way from the center front. But since I measured from my shoulder here, I'll just attach it 6 inches. I want it to be 6 inches. So I measured it on the slants, not here, on the slants. 6 inches. Then if you want to take this 6 inches straight down, to go all the way down. But because I want my kimono, I don't want the sleeve to be straight. I want it to be slant so that it can come in and relax. So I'll go 1 inch away from it. And the circumference of my round sleeve, that's the length of my sleeve. The circumference is 16. I want my circumference to be 16. So divided by 2, that's 8 inches. So you measure 8 inches. This is where it ends. 8 inches is here. So you connect it 8 inches. You see? The line is slant, it's not straight. 8 inches. This is my 8 inch. And the circumference, this is my bust point. My bust is 41. 41, I have my measurements. Divided by 4. That's 10.5 plus 1 inch, 10.25 plus 1 inch is, depends on you. If you want it to be very free, you can add 1.5 or 2 inch. For my bust, I want to add 1 inch is. So I'll make it 11.25. So this is it, 11.25. And for my waist divided by 4 is 9 plus 1 inch is. But for the waist, I want to add like 1.5 inch. So I'll make it 10.5. For my hip is 46 divided by 4 is 11.5. I just want to add just 1 inch is. So 11.5 plus 1 inch is, that's 12.5. So I want to make my hemline, the circumference of my hemline to be the same thing with my hip. Or I can make it like half inch wider, so I will be able to walk with. Or you can make it the same thing, 12 inch. So remember, we've not imputed our seam allowance. So now this is the circumference that I calculated. So this is how you connect it. This is a kimono. You take your hip curve, connect the circumference. You see the way it's connected? Connect it to your hip, the bust line. Don't mind me. The bust line. So then connect it. Then you bring out the shape. Then you take your ruler and connect it straight down. Remember, I've not added my seam allowance. So now I want to add 1 inch seam allowance. Depends on you. My seam allowance, 1 inch, 1 inch, then you connect it. One inch seam allowance. Can see, very easy. So now to join, I need half inch to join this because I'm going to be cutting a turn up for my kimono. So I'll show you how to sew it. So I'm adding just half inch, just half inch that I'm going to be using to join my sleeve, that's my kimono sleeve, to my turn up. So that's how to cut that part. Now I want to cut the neckline. I want my neckline to be like 4 inches deep, and the width of my neckline, I want it to be like 5 inches. So it depends on your choice. So After you have done that, you connect it. Connect it, and I need my allowance for my shoulder, ½ inch. You impute your ½ inch for your shoulder allowance to join your shoulder. ½ inch, ½ inch, ½ inch. So you connect the ½ inch to join your shoulder. So we are done. The next thing is for you to cut. The way I did the allowance part, I didn't follow the slant there because it's an allowance. You have to make your allowance that you're adding straight. So now I'm not going to be putting a zipper for this, so the front and back is the same thing. There's no zipper. So now you are going to the turn up. How did I cut my turn up? Remember, my round sleeve is 8 inches. I just added extra 3 inches to it. If there's any excess after sewing, I will trim it off. So that's it. My round sleeve is 16. That's 8 inches divided by 2 is 16. I want it to be free, 16. So I added extra 3 inches. That is 19. Yep. So I want to use it to pipe the neck. This one I'll be using it to pipe the neck. This one is for my turn up, so that it will be on the kimono dress. I'll show you how to sew it when I'm sewing it. I'm using this to pipe the neck, but I cut it on bias. You can use your bias to pipe the neck. How did I cut it on bias? You know your gray lines, when it slants like this, okay? Let me show you. I cut it this way, slant. So cutting it on bias. So now let's go to sewing our kimono dress. We're starting now. We are going to be joining our shoulder and we'll be doing a French stitch. So you stitch it first from the right side of your fabric. No, we left out just 0.5 inch for shoulder seam allowance. So you just stitch like 0.25 inch, that's quarter of an inch. So now that's what I want to do now. Just little of it, you see, because we are still going to be stitching inside. So after you do it like this first, then you turn it to the wrong side. You see? Then you stitch it on the wrong side. See how it is? So this is the wrong side of my fabric. This is the wrong side. And you see? This is the right side. It's called French stitch. You see how it looks? So now the next thing we are going to be doing, we are going to be sewing our turn-up. This is the turn-up we cut. We are going to be stitching it. So when you stitch your turn up now, stitch it, take it. You see the way I did it? I folded it, you see? I made it 5 inches because I want my turn up to be like the length of it. I made it 5 inches. I want my turn up to be like 2 inches. So I'll be stitching out 0.5. That's 0.5 from here, 0.5 from here. That's 1 inch. So, but all together it's going to be 4 inch like this, but 2 inch this way. So now you see, you sew it facing the right side. This is the right side of my fabric so that I can turn it up like this. And I'm taking excess here. Take excess outward so that it can match my fabric when I'm stitching it. Then if there's any excess at the end of the day, after shaping it, I will trim off the excess. You stitch it all the way. So now the next thing, I want to pipe my neckline. So you can get your bias. Is that you use your bias? But I want to use this fabric. I used to turn it up so it shows. So the next thing is to pipe it. So let it go around first. After you go around now, the next thing is to pipe it. You are still piping. We are still piping our neck line. So you sew it all the way around. You go all the way around. So now we've piped the neck. You see, this is how it looks. So the next one now, we are going to be shaping our kimono, bringing out the shape of your kimono. So this turn up, you have to iron it and make it look like the way it will look. You see it facing this way, and you turn it this way like this if you want to stitch it. See, you turn it this way. When we are done, I'm going to be cutting out this excess, turn it, and ensure that it's equal. Now we are going to be stitching it, following our sewing allowance. So we took out 1 inch for our seam allowance. Stitch it all the way. You see the seam allowance we took out. That's what I'm stitching. be doing is to hem, and we took out 1 inch for our hem allowance. This is the 1 inch. So whatever we are hemming, we first fold ½ inch. See the way I folded this, then you fold again. So that's what you'll be hemming. You stitch it all the way. Go all the way around it.